What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I want to go over another idea I did end up getting while being on Need for Speed Unbound. Now, we do know a lot of these things are most likely not going to happen in Motorfest, but honestly, who knows in the future? This game really does have so much potential that they probably could add it. Now, this is going to come down to the buy-ins of like races or even like the betting system. I guess in some ways you can probably call it like a wagering system, but for example, on this one right here, it is going to be a $32,000 buy-in with a reward of being 80,000, which obviously at first glance is honestly awful. And a lot of people back when this game was kind of popular, many people didn't even like it. But I did end up coming up with a few different ideas that something like this might actually end up working in the correct matter. Now, we do know paying something like $12,000 and then only getting 24,000 back is honestly going to be a pretty awful reward. I mean, for one, you're basically only getting back $12,000 from the event, which you could probably tell having buy-ins in certain ways isn't going to be a good way to do something, unless you're actually having more rewards or even double the money back for it. Like, let's say the buy-in from that event is going to be $12,000. I would say the reward for that event should be like 60 grand or like even 70. That way you're actually getting something back for the event. It actually is worth your time for doing it. One of the other ways, though, I do feel like would be insanely good to have in Motorfest, though, not only like the buy-ins, I feel like a lot of players might actually want to wager or even like bet more money on buying into that event if they actually got better rewards. Like imagine for a second, guys, you actually buy into a set event for let's say $15,000. In that event, you're going to get maybe let's say $60,000 back. But what if though, even though you did end up buying into that set event, what if you actually got more parts or even you wagered money into that to get like a special vanity item or even like an old vanity because we obviously know there is a lot of them. I feel like that would give players a bigger reason to actually add money into that race or like who knows, maybe they can add like a game mode into the summit to where you can pay to get into the event. Even though I would say like 15 to $20,000 is not a lot of money to get into a race. And then on top of that, though, if you are buying into a set event, it is obviously going to give a player a bigger reason to actually, buy into the event. That way you're going to get more rewards and extra money or like even extra XP you can pay for. I feel like that would honestly be a pretty dang cool concept. Now, a different way I was looking at this though is let's say you are looking to do like a buy-in feature to like certain events in the game. Like they don't have to do this for every single one. Maybe they can have like a certain playlist or like a certain game mode to where you can buy into them. This can even probably work for something like a PvP game mode. Let's say everybody there is going to add around $20,000 to get into it. If you actually have 20 players in there and the first player gets 400 grand, I know at first this probably sounds absolutely insane, but do not worry guys, hear me out for a quick second. We did end up seeing something like this in GTA as well, to where you basically use like 20 grand to buy into that said race. You would then obviously get around 100 grand if you actually win. I would say if you had 20 players in an event and everybody put 20,000 in, if I had to guess, that would probably be way too big of a payout in a set event, so they're most likely not going to have wagered events that high. But I would also say one way they could do this, let's say you actually have 10 racers wanting to do it. Maybe every single racer could do around 5,000 or even let's say 7,000. That way at least you will have a higher chance, but you're also not spending as much money that you could end up losing in there. Which I would say to this time a lot of players will not mind spending $10,000 to get in a pretty high wagered race on PvP. Like that would be insanely fun. And on top of that, you're most likely going to be a lot more intense in like racing and stuff like that. But maybe I would say not having a 28 player race in this wouldn't be the greatest idea. Now, one way they might actually have to do this though is obviously if you do win, you're going to get most of the money, but maybe every single other player might get a bit more if they do place a bit higher. Let's say you buy into that race and you're going to start in like 10th place, and you end up coming back and maybe getting 3rd place. Maybe you might end up making back like $3,000 or $4,000 or even like an extra 15. That way you're actually going to make more money from that event because you placed a bit higher. We do know the person in first place is obviously going to get most of the money. They can also have like a higher stake one to where, yeah, you actually add like 8 to 10 grand in, and only like the top 3 players actually get money from the race though. Now this could be good, but one of the only issues though is it might actually make people back out of the event. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to get 10th place, so why would I even bother wanting to finish this race though? That is probably going to be another issue on top of the other ones. So we do want to make sure everybody in that set event is actually getting something out of it. Even if they're making back the money they did end up spending plus a bit more, we do know a lot of players are most likely going to want like XP or like even getting better rewards from that event. That way it's most likely going to give a player a bigger reason to actually do it. Now, one other idea I also had on this, guys, I do know at this point many players are probably going to be like, well, I do think Blocked, you're probably going to be a bit insane here because most of this stuff is probably a bit out of reach. But hey, we honestly never know along the life cycle of this game. We did see a lot of things happen in the crew too, so who knows if Motorfest might end up getting it. Now, what if you can actually buy into these events and most likely get better rewards based on what you buy in? I know at first this probably sounds a bit crazy, but hear me out for a quick second. Let's say you actually go into that event and you most likely go, yeah, let's add $15,000 onto this. That will give me like an extra 10,000 XP or like even an extra 15,000 XP if I buy into it. You're still going to get the same money back for the event, but you're also going to get more XP on top of what you bought. The other thing I was also thinking about though is maybe you can actually add more money into the event and that way you actually get extra parts out of it. Almost like you're wagering into that event to buy more parts from the event, but you're obviously going to get less money from it. I do feel like something like this would honestly end up working if it is done correctly. Now, I do admit though, guys, I would say some of these ideas are most likely going to be on the crazy side to say the least, but let's be honest though, Motorfest has so much potential, they really could do so much with this game in the future, and I honestly want this game to do so dang good, which I think it will, and throwing some weird ideas out there like this might even improve it. I would like to know if you guys do think something like a buy-in system would end up working. But one of the craziest things I actually think about is the potential for Motorfest is honestly unlimited.